with the introduction. So today we're talking about safety boots, and one of the things we're concerned is that we're expecting the view of safety boots to maybe be a safety boot is a safety boot, and what Deline's going to take us through is exactly the opposite to that. A safety boot is not just a safety boot, and we need to understand what are we paying for and make sure that we're getting the right product for the right function, and essentially the product that's going to last the longest, and should something happen, we protect it. So I'm quite excited. Deline is from Rebel. She's got many years experience. I will get into an introduction for her, but just a quick recap of what we're going to go through today. So we're going to go through the next 5 minutes, just a quick introduction. I think the names I'm seeing are familiar. You guys are quite familiar to the format. We'll go through an introduction, PPE solutionists, that's what Protector thinks of itself as. The webinar conduct, so just making sure that it runs smoothly, just accepting people as we go. And then the expected outcomes and handover to Deline. The presentation from Deline's side will be the safety boot, not just the safety boot, which is covering the industry standards, well, not standards. That's from ISO, SANS, and NRCS. We're also going to be touching on understanding footwear classification, and then the RANs and sensors is basically you get what you pay for. And then we aim to finish that at about 3 o'clock, and that will leave another half an hour for questions. If you guys do want, and I don't know whether we found it yet or not, but feel free to engage during the session. I do think we might get a bit better direct answers as to issues that we're seeing at the moment, instead of waiting till the end and maybe trying to remember. So as I mentioned, Protector is a PPE solutionist, and how we see that is we come with solutions for our clients. We're not here to sell you some PPE and run away. We really want to engage. We want to understand what your problems and your challenges are. Your sales team are with us on this call, so if you have anything that you see out of this, feel free to engage them as well. And yeah, today we're covering the foot protection, but we do have access to all those other ranges, and we have specialists in each of those ranges. Just a quick webinar conduct. So as usual, we do want it to run smoothly, and we don't want any people to feel a bit irritated from the way it is run or how we interact during the webinar. So the mics are on, but I'm going to ask that everyone keeps your mic on mute. Unless you've got an answer, feel free to unmute and ask your question. But if I can request that once you've finished asking your question, if we can mute again, just to make sure there's no background noises that we were not expecting. Video is off to ensure the quality of the feed. Obviously, if you want to pop in your head and say hello, feel free, but if we can switch them off in general, it's going to just make sure that the webinar isn't interrupted. Deline will introduce herself via the camera as well, and I think then she will switch off. Questions. So we do want engagement, and the value for us in this session is engagement. The idea is we get to bring the OEMs, the people that manufacture, the people that are in designing, the people that really know the most about specific PPE, directly to the end user, you guys, our clients, allowing you to ask questions as and when you require. So we hope that that opens up a conversation, and please feel free, there's no stupid questions. Engage with questions, it always brings value for everyone. And then the last thing I need to just mention is the session is recorded. So we do post them live a couple of weeks later. As I mentioned, the previous ones, if you want access to it, please reach out to your salesperson. But ultimately, we are recording this purely just to upload it again in case somebody needs to refer to it. Cool. And then outcomes and handover. So the biggest thing from our side is the value. We want to ensure these sessions are valuable. That's a two-way exchange. We've got the OEMs bringing the information. If the clients can also bring questions, that'll really up the engagement or the value out of the session. We get to share subject matter expertise. The OEMs are probably the most knowledgeable people in the industry. Let's use their brain. Let's really feed off of what they know. Interesting developments and innovations. We are at the beginning of the series where it's mostly legislative and understanding the minimum requirements. but we hope this evolves into sessions where we understand what is coming in the future. So that is something we're quite excited about. And then obviously we're all here to increase safety. Everyone needs to understand what's the minimum expectations, what should we be adhering to, where does that line, where do we cross that line? And then the final couple is we do consistently share. So in about 3 weeks' time, I think we're running one specifically for lockout tagout. We will have Brady as the OEMs, and they will be sharing from an international point of view, what does lockout tagout standards require internationally, because locally we have really low depth of understanding or even legislative understanding or expectations. Fantastic. So yeah, on to our speaker. So Deline will be heading this up. She's extremely knowledgeable in the industry, and I think we've engaged with Deline on many different levels. But one of the really nice things about Deline is she engages at a point of making sure we're driving the committees, we're driving safety. She's very involved with the committees, the standards, and that's from both the legislative point and just a best practice point. So I'm going to hand over to Deline, and yeah, hope this is valuable for you guys. Cool.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for taking the time out this afternoon to join us here at Protector. It's great to be able to interact with end users at this level. My experience, I've been in the PPE industry for more than 20 years. I started out as a basic salesperson. My claim to fame is having worked with the Gautrain project, right from breaking ground right through to Bombardier bringing in the trains and the coaches. I'm actively involved in the association, SAPIMA. I'm currently running my second chair for SAPIMA. Actively involved in terms of standards, specification, and having an absolute passion for saving people's lives. Safety is not just safety. There is a reason why we have PPE. So please feel free to ask any questions. Like Dylan said, there's no such thing as a stupid question. The more you ask, the more you engage, the more exciting the actual session becomes. Footwear is not just a woman thing. Footwear is very much an integral part of safety. So hopefully by the end of the presentation today, you guys will walk away thinking, my gosh, footwear is not just footwear. Thank you. Rebel Safety Gear, who are we and what are we all about? We are a brand that is pioneering tradition. We are very focused on comfort, safety, style, and originality in our safety footwear. Pretty much in most cases, everybody knows what safety footwear looks like. However, with Rebel, we try and bring in the most important aspects of safety, from the finest quality materials used in the manufacturing process to technical specification and to making sure that the tests are of, cutting edge technology with absolute comfort and the latest fashion trends, making safety footwear sexy and fashionable. Industry standards and specifications, we're going to go straight into it. The international safety footwear standard that everybody across the globe works with is ISO 20345, off the version of 2011. It's very important to understand that these standards and specifications go through the motions and they often change and get upgraded. South African Bureau of Standards, as we know here in South Africa as SABS, have adopted the international standard, hence why it's called SANS ISO 20345. SABS adopted the standard in 2014. The whole purpose of the 2014 change was that slip resistance became a mandatory test in the test of the ISO 20345. What does it mean to carry the SABS mark? And I think this is very important because a lot of tenders go out and they say the boot must be SABS. It's very important to understand what that actually means. To carry the SABS mark, That means that your factory has been audited and gone through the ISO 9001 management crit from SABS, and your product has gone through the necessary tests and specification checks that SABS is now happy with that. In order for you to carry that mark on your product, remember, it must be on the product, not on the packaging. You do not wear the box. So that means if your product is SABS approved, your factory has gone through the audit as well as your product. Something that is very, very important on safety footwear is what we call NRCS. NRCS is the National Regulator for Compulsory Specifications. This division reports directly into the DTI. In 2008, Rob Davies, they announced and they confirmed that there would be the NRCS Act of 2008. What does that mean? It means to provide for the establishment of the National Regulator for Compulsory Specifications of South Africa, to provide the administration and maintenance of compulsory specifications in the interest of public safety and health or for the environmental protection, and to provide for matters connected herewith. Guys, this is very, very important. The whole purpose of NRCS is to prevent inferior, non-compliant product being dumped in South Africa. There are 3 product categories that fall under PPE NRCS homologation. Number 1, respiratory. Number 2, safety footwear. And the last one that's currently around is for flotation devices. So that's your life jackets. They are looking to add additional PPE categories to the camp under NRCS homologation. The safety footwear falls under NRCS, the VC 9002. What does this actually mean? Is a very important question for you, the end user, that doesn't really know all of this information. All you want to make sure is your staff have got safety footwear according to legislation and according to your Health and Safety Act that you guys are providing PPE. NRCS compliance means that your product has gone through a stringent audit, technical file submission, sample production, and in terms of sample submission to the NRCS, where they closely cut up boots, they go through everything with a fine tooth comb before they will then issue you with what they call an LOA, or a letter of authority. This number that gets issued to every single solitary style of footwear in terms of different applications or a different classification, each number gets issued to a manufacturer for every single style. That number, according to the NRCS compliance, has to be present on your tongue label. Not the box, on the tongue label. Both locally manufactured as well as imported product that are coming into South Africa have got to have NRCS compliance. That is the number 1 spec or requirement that should be on everybody's top of mind or in terms of procuring. Do the products have NRCS? Rebel Safe is accredited to ISO 20345:2011. We carry SABS in terms of we have a compliance and a current certificate, and all our styles within the Rebel Safety Gear footwear camp carry LOAs per each style. Any questions regarding NRCS at this point in time? I see we have a question coming through from a Vincent. No, okay, great. So what goes into a boot? It's a quick little drawing just from one of our catalog issues. Again, it's not just a boot. We have an outsole, we have a footbed, we have a stability board, we have a toe cap, we have an upper, we have eyelets, we have anti-penetration protection. All of this goes actually into the making and manufacturing of a safety boot. It's very, very interesting to note this, and I'm going to share it at this point in time. You can go into Woolworths, you can go into Markham's, you can go into whatever. Your fashion shoes that you are spending anything from 300 to 1,500 Rand does not have any safety standard or specification that it needs to comply to. But most will buy that boot without a blink of an eye. The safety boot or shoe, in order to be compliant against ISO 20345, goes through a minimum of 200 tests. Let's have a look at what uppers are. An upper on any safety boot or shoe can consist of the full grain leather, which is normally your outside split of the leather that comes through from the tannery, an inside split, which is your second strongest, and a middle split, which most of us would know as a chrome leather, which is your weakest and obviously cheapest part of the leather. So what are the problems with taking a cheap leather? That leather has to go through a treatment process in order to get it to become usable on a footwear pattern. It gets treated with a PU coating. It gets a lining on the inside, and it loses its breathability. Remember, leather is a natural fabric or fiber. It breathes. When you are coating and when you are adding all these additional items to make it actually worthwhile, you are losing the breathability. It often causes blisters and can tear easily. In the leather tanning process, you get all different types of colors. And often what happens is when you have a look at an industrial safety footwear, it has what we call a Barton print, which means that that leather has actually gone through a roller. Okay, you get different types of leathers in terms of synthetic leathers. And this has become a very, very popular side of things. Number one, with microfiber, your car seats in a lot of cars are made out of microfiber. You can get different colors, you can get different finishes, and as well, you get a great amount of consistency. With obviously natural leather, you get pock marks, you get scratches, etc., etc. So microfiber has become a very, very important part of uppers within the safety as well as fashion footwear. You get your suede, your nubuck, that always look really, really good, but all of these come in at a premium versus a microfiber. So a lot of the cheaper options that are in the industry are often not made out of genuine leather. They are made out of a microfiber or a split leather finish. Your inner linings are a very, very important part of a safety footwear because within the South African market, a lot of our blue-collared workers do not wear socks. So there is a lot of sweat, and there's nothing that takes the sweat away from the foot if they are not wearing socks. Hence why we talk about wearing a good quality pair of socks, but if not, then the lining is obviously an important part of having a safety footwear in your boot. So eyelets and laces, and I think this is the important part that a procurement guy or girl or someone is looking at a pair of boots. If you have a look at a pair of safety boots or shoes, the number of eyelets is very, very important. It might seem trivial. However, every last piece of item that goes into the manufacture process of a safety boot adds to the cost. So you can imagine two additional eyelets could possibly add $1 to the making of a safety boot. However, the big thing with having 5 versus 4 eyelets is the amount of tensile strength across the metatarsal area. This is a very, very true point where a lot of your cheaper and more budget type of boots have got 4 eyelets. Why is this a problem? Because if the guy is flexing, walking, he's doing an 8-hour shift, he does not have the same amount of flexibility on a 4-eyelet boot versus a 5-eyelet boot. What happens with this? This can lead to foot fatigue, burning feet, and we can go into that if anyone has questions regarding that. But it's important to know that every last item that goes onto a safety boot comes at a cost. Outsoles. What goes into an outsole? This is like a tire that's on anyone's car that they are driving. You need the outsole in order to make sure that you've got a boot or a shoe that's going to keep you safe and give you torsional rigidity when you walk. So what are the different types of outsoles? You get dual density polyurethane, which is pretty much, Jacques, you've got another question? No. Okay. Dual density polyurethane is probably the most widely used outsole on all safety footwear, as well as your fashion boots and shoes. And the reason for that, it is pretty cost effective. However, it's well received in terms of making sure that the actual upper has an outsole that works from an injection molding process. It allows for flexibility, comfort, and it is pretty light, but it is also very, very robust against oil, acid, fuel, rocks, concrete, stones, etc. You then get what we call a rubber nitrile, which is generally quite a hard and heavy substrate on an upper. A rubber nitrile rubber outsole is often used in a chemical environment and provides that chemical resistance for that boot. We then also have seen a large amount of PU rubber combinations that are coming through the system. And the reason for that is your PU offers the softness, but your rubber offers the durability on that outsole. PU rubber, as well as rubber nitrile, has a heat resistance of 300 degrees on contact. And we say on contact because if you're standing in 300 degrees, trust me, you are yourself going to melt. Your general dual density polyurethane can only upstand to 95 degrees on contact. So it's not considered a heat resistant boot by any form. And that doesn't matter what brand it is. Dual density polyurethane stands to 95 degrees on contact. Single density is often seen also in your cheaper, more sort of budget boots. Single density often happens where it will crack. I always say, if you have a look at your old school shoes, the first thing that used to happen, they used to crack across the flex point. That is indicative of a single density boot or shoe. Dual density means that it has a hard outer layer and a softer inner layer of the polyurethane on the outsole. Okay, insole stability board. This is important. A lot of shoes don't have this in terms of they have felt, and this doesn't provide a lot of rigidity to the wearer of the boot or the shoe. Footbeds, additional comfort. However, often these footbeds that are found in safety boots and shoes hide poor quality polyurethane that's been done during the manufacture process. Often you will find on a footbed there is a thread, which is an anti-static thread, which helps prevent a static buildup. Okay, toe caps. Toe caps, what is 200 joules? In order to be compliant to pass your ISO 20345, your toe cap needs to meet the impact of 200 joules. How do we test? And this is quite an interesting test that gets done, is they push putty into the toe cap, underneath the toe cap. It then goes for the drop test. The amount of indentation found on that toe cap will tell you if your toe cap passes the 200 joule drop test or not. This is an important part, that if something should drop on your safety boot or shoe, that they are replaced, because you are not going to see that indentation on your safety boot toe cap. In the toe cap camp, you have your carbon steel toe caps, which are pretty much seen throughout the safety industry, as well as what we call a composite toe cap, which is a non-metallic toe cap, which takes the same amount of impact as a steel toe cap. It is often wider and higher, and with that comes a cost, because unfortunately everything related to non-metallic does have a cost effect side of it. An important point which I want to raise on composite toe cap boots. When you have a staff force or labor force that is in your field or on your workforce, you will always have someone that will say to you, oh, I can't wear safety boots because I suffer from sugar diabetes, I've had a foot operation, I've had an injury, etc., etc. This causes a lot of havoc for a lot of safety officers that are, in the field. They still need to make sure that that individual is safe and is able to do their job at hand by wearing his safety boots or shoes. Please note that these individuals should be wearing composite toe cap boots. Normally, guys that suffer with sugar diabetes, it is a circulatory issue because of the metal. However, if you put them into a composite toe cap boot or shoe, this will be obviously eradicated from that point of view. Anti-penetration. This is a piece that goes in between the insole board and your outsole. It can be either non-metallic, meaning it could be a Kevlar midsole, as well as it can also be a steel midsole. Guys that are involved in your glass factories, guys that are involved in laboratories where you've got hypodermic needles, do not use a non-metallic anti-penetration plate. You need to make sure that you are wearing a steel midsole plate. Okay, we touched on briefly in terms of slip resistance. As I said before, when SANS took over the new ISO 20345-2014, it was the slip resistance that then became a mandatory test. How is this tested and why is this so important? One of the most important injuries that often happens on a lot of sites is slip. Within the slip resistance camp, you have 3 types of slip resistance: SRA, SRB, and SRC. This will be on your tongue label of any safety boot or shoe that is compliant to the ISO 20345. SRA is tested. Basically what they do is they put a ceramic plate. They then put soapy solution onto it, and the boot then gets placed onto that ceramic plate, and they measure the time factor that it takes for that boot or shoe to slide down that ceramic plate with the soapy solution. SRB means that it's been tested on a metal surface with a soapy solution. So that's, for example, your aluminium tread plate is a perfect example of a metal surface. Your SRC test is done on both ceramic and metal. Hence why we say if you have a high percentage of slippage or slip accidents in your field or in your area, make sure that your guys are wearing an SRC slip resistant boot or shoe in that area. So this is a cutaway, and I know that the average Joe doesn't get to see this, but all the shoe dogs of the industry, we cut up everybody's boots and shoes to actually show you what goes on inside a boot or shoe. The very first image, and I hope you guys can all see it, is that it shows you the outsole heel as well as the inner polyurethane, which is a full polyurethane piece inside that dual density outsole. If you look below it, you will see a picture of a poor quality boot which has what we call a plug. Often these plugs are made out of EVA. And for those that don't know what EVA is, your classic pluckies, your slip-slops, that is what EVA foam is made out of. When we have cut up a lot of boots and shoes like this, we have often seen newspaper, cork, cardboard, all to cut back on the cost of what has gone into the dual density manufacture process of an outsole. Why is this important, or why should this make it a poor quality? It leads to wearer fatigue. You know, with a pair of pluckies, when that slip-slop has been worn for the last 3 years and you really, really don't want to get rid of it, and you have a look at the side of the heel, it is probably now, from the front of the heel, it's probably down to 2 or 3 mils from what it was when you first bought that pair of pluckies that was 2 centimeters thick. That creates wearer fatigue, where your heel is lower than your toe area, and that causes back pressure and overcompensation for the individual that is wearing those boots. Like I say, you're not going to see that when you have a pair of boots or shoes on, but this is what goes on during the wearing process of a cheaper product that has got an EVA plug or got a plug in the outsole. Then if you have a look at the top picture, it shows you where the lining and the felt that is put in on a full grain leather type of boot. And if you have a look at the picture underneath, you will then see that chrome leather that is then coated, as well as the upper on the outside will probably more than likely have a coating on it as well. Right, understanding the classifications. Why is this important? When you are doing a tender or when you are constructing a tender, it's very important not to state the brand in your tender document. When you are looking for an S3 product, you will more than likely eliminate 80% of all the boots and the shoes in the market. So let's have a look at it. SB, it means that it has a steel toe cap. However, the outsole has got no anti-static properties whatsoever. A large portion of your cheaper brands on the market will be SB. S1 means it has a steel toe cap and has anti-static properties. Probably 80 to 85% of all safety footwear in the industry, doesn't matter what brand it is, will be an S1 classified product. S1P means it is an S1 and it has anti-static penetration protection. Whether it is non-metallic or whether it is metallic or steel, it is still classified as an S1P classified safety boot or shoe. Europe, it is mandatory to wear an S1P safety boot on site. They will not accept an S1. And that is because of the amount of amount of footwear injuries for penetration where nails or thorns or etc. have gone through the outsole and up into the individual's foot. S2 means that it is an S1, so it has a toe cap, it has anti-static properties, and it has a water-resistant coating on it. And finally, an S3, which is an S1P plus an S2. So it's a small little formula that is quite easy to remember, but very, very often overlooked when it comes to tenders. If someone is looking for an S1P boot, you should know straight away what you are looking for or what you are going to offer your individual to wear that. There are other S4s, S5s, but that falls under gum boots, under the ISO 20345. Right. Rands and cents. Having gone through the presentation of what is the upper, what is the outsole, you can now start unpacking and seeing what you are actually paying for. In something in safety which we hate is a lost time injury. An LTI causes safety officers an absolute headache. You know, if someone breaks their ankle, if someone breaks their toe, if someone is at a motorbike accident, the footwear injury is the longest healing time injury. You are out of action for a minimum to 4 to 6 weeks. Correct sizing. It boggles my mind that in the industry, most men do not know their shoe size. And I say most men with respect. It's the same as a woman not wanting to give her dress size, but men don't know their shoe size. For some reason, it's not something that a lot of guys do. You will spend money on a pair of running shoes and you will know your size, but you don't know your safety boot size. And often what happens with that is that guys will say, yes, but you've got the toe cap in the front. My toe is hitting the toe cap. It's very difficult to put your finger on the toe like mom used to do when you used to buy your school shoes, because now you have a the toe cap there that you can't do that. Guys, you've got to make sure that you cannot feel the front of the safety boot when you are putting that safety boot or shoe on. Fit for purpose is very, very important. If someone is working in a smelter, you cannot put them with a stock standard entry-level safety boot on, because they are not going to be correctly dressed in terms of their safety footwear. It's important to know that section by section, when a site assessment is done, unfortunately, most companies will say, oh, we're having one safety boot across the whole site. That's great and all, but it doesn't work, because your welders need to have a heat-resistant boot. They need to have a laceless boot. Your guys that are working up and down scaffolding need to make sure that they have an S1P protection in terms of the outsole. It's a very, very important part of when you are doing your code of conduct that your footwear fits the purpose of what the individual is wearing. So yes, if they are wearing a flame retardant Conti suit, are you going to give them a 250 Rand boot? No, because it should be what they are wearing needs to be in the same level of their footwear. Standards and specification compliance is very, very important. Are you going to now put someone that is wearing an ARC suit in an entry-level non-compliant safety boot because we are now watching our budgets? No. The other thing as well, when we start talking about workwear, because remember, when you go onto site, your mandatory PPE items are such. You need to have a Conti suit on, and you need to have a pair of safety boots. Sometimes they'll say a hard hat, they might have reflective, etc. But in order to get onto site with mandatory PPE, it is your workwear and your safety boots or shoes. So if you are wearing a budget Conti, most guys will then have a budget pair of safety boots on. If you are wearing a Johnson, or you're wearing a Sweet or Garment or a J54, but now you're putting your guy into the cheapest pair of boots, it doesn't make sense. Most guys will get given 2 or 3 Conti suits. What is the issue? We'll give them 1 pair of boots. 1 pair of boots, 8-hour shift. The guy's wearing those shoes Monday to Friday, sometimes Monday to Saturday. He's got no other boots or shoes that he is wearing. Often the guy will go home, he will get onto a taxi, he'll get onto a train wearing those sewing boots and shoes. But we give them the cheapest pair of boots that we know. It doesn't work. Fit for purpose is really, really, really important. As I said, over 200 tests are done in order to have ISO 20345 SANS 20345 stamp of approval. But you want to spend 250 Rand on this pair of boots, but you'll spend 500 Rand on a pair of lace-up boots or shoes that you buy for yourself. Doesn't add up. Last but not least, if they could bring national service back, I'd be the happiest woman in the footwear industry, because those guys back in the day, most of you guys that are older than the 40s would know what national service is all about. They were given the cheapest, ugliest pair of army boots, but those army boots shine. You can see your face in them. They shine so, so much. And they lasted. Why? Because they were nourished with polish. It looks like these days, in terms of our millennials and all sorts, we don't know what nugget or kiwi polish is. But yet, you will polish your leather shoes that you bought from A&D Spitz, but not your safety boots or shoes. Why? Oh, because the company issues it, is what I get told. Oh, we don't have money or budget for polish. Where's the self-pride, guys? Polish the boots. Why? It creates a waxy leather, a waxy finish on the leather. It nourishes the leather. You can have the cheapest pair of boots that you've been given, but if they are polished, that will lengthen the life of any safety boot or shoe. Guys don't polish their boots, and they expect these boots to work wonders. I think that's it, summing it up in a very, very brief and concise presentation with touch points, I think, which often is overlooked in terms of from a procurement point of view, from a budget point of view, fit for purpose point of view, and understanding why does ISO 20345 now sit under homologation. Right, guys, I think that's it from me. I'd like to put questions to the floor, anything that you would like to ask, problems that you've had, maybe perhaps there's something that you have in your site that you're experiencing a problem with. Please feel free to ask the questions.
Cool. Don't know if there's any questions, if there's any possible points. Hanson, I've got a big love for you. You always engage us during these things. Really, thanks for that. What's happening?
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, I'll try to up my voice a bit.
I'm sorry, Hanson, we're not hearing you this up.
You can't hear me. Can you hear me now?
Okay, Hanson, please repeat your question. We've just moved over onto another mic.
Okay, I just want to check. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, just talk boldly because we've got a thunderstorm here going, so we've got racketing on the roof here.
Okay, I'll try to shout a bit louder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Give us
Okay.
that big voice.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for the knowledge sharing, and yeah, it's quite helpful. So from my side, most recently, I'm experiencing something not on the safety boots per se, however, on the gum boots, because most recently I've seen a lot of people wearing gum boots. And when I check on the spec, I picked up that it's plastic boots. So I thought maybe we are going to get into the horizon of looking into the gum boots that equipped with the safety features such as steel to cap,
Okay.
and yeah, those kind of
What are
things.
your concerns? Okay, well, gum boots are made out of a PVC, right?
Yeah.
Why are they uncomfortable? 9 times out of 10, a gum boot doesn't have a footbed. It doesn't have a lining. You know, when you're wearing a pair of PVC gloves, what happens? You sweat.
You sweat, yeah.
Why would we wear gum boots versus a pair of safety boots? Water and leather don't like each other. It's like oil and water. So it depends on the amount of water that you have. There are the exact same standard specifications on safety gum boots. You get gum boots that have got toe caps. You've got gum boots that have anti-penetration. You've got gum boots that have got metatarsal protection, which goes on the top of the gum boot. And then you get your good old non-steel toe type of gum boot from your red and white, or should I say your white and red, from your food industry. And then you get your big heavy-duty Igorli gum boots from Wayne, for example. So the big thing with wearing gum boots is this much. For example, on a cementation plant, there's a large amount of concrete, there's a large amount of water. If the guys are wearing safety boots, that's great if they polish their boots and make sure that the concrete is cleaned off their boots every single night or before they go to site that day. If you have a look at a pair of gum boots, you can basically spray them down and they'll drip dry and they'll be clean. So the principles are exactly the same from a gum boot to a safety boot. What problems are you having in terms of gum boots? Is it that the guys don't want to wear them because they are uncomfortable? Or is it that they'd rather wear the gum boots and not the safety boots?
And what I just experienced most recently from Monday, we had quite a lot of water and that we wanted to take out. And the guys thought that maybe just to wear gum boots that will help them, but only to find that the gum boots that we were wearing were just plastic gum boots, not equipped with some safety features. Hence,
Okay.
hence I started sharing the learning around the safety gumboots that have some steel to cap and yeah, those kind of linings and protection.
100%. And I think, this is where you need to make sure that your procurement guys are very, very involved, because a normal gumboot with no steel toe, you can go and buy that from Macro, you can go and buy that from a hardware store, from probably anything between, I think, 50 to 100 Rand. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear.
Whereas a gumboot that has got a steel toe cap is a lot more expensive. It's very, very important that your procurement knows this. You have to stipulate that you need a steel toe cap gumboot. It's the same with waders. When guys are working in heavy water, but they still require the steel toe cap protection. The miners that are going underground, there is your classic scenario. They require a gumboot, obviously when they're drilling and going into deep water, but they still need toe cap protection.
Thank you very much. I think I'm answered on that.
Great. Thanks, Hanson.
Cool.
Any other questions? Are you all polishing your shoes? Creak, 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 creak.
No.
And I joke about it, guys, but it's something that we cover extensively in toolbox talks, because a lot of concrete in construction, a lot of concrete in civils, concrete and leather don't like one another. What happens when you put water on concrete? It just absorbs the water. As I said, your genuine leather products have a certain amount of moisture in them. Concrete will sap that leather upper dry, so much so that the next thing you have a complaint because the safety boots are cracking. Why? Because they are hard. Why are they hard? They've never seen any leather polish or anything on. Before boots are issued, they should be polished. And all the guys around the table are now laughing at me, and I'm saying, guys, it is a basic housekeeping rule that should be compliant at every single solitary change room, warehouse, store, etc. What happened to the inspections? What happened? I don't know. That's why I said national service, come back so we can teach people how to clean their boots. Right. I think if there's no questions, we're happy to share the presentation. There's no question, too big, too small. Save your feet, guys. Something very, very small that can be added to your fatigue is a footbed. If you don't have the budget for a more expensive boot, there's always a footbed that can go into any brand that creates that a little bit of ergonomic comfort for your guys that are having between an 8 to a 12-hour shift. Simple basics. If your guys are happy, happy feet, happy workers, happy safety officer, happy procurement officer. Thank you, guys. Over to Dylan.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Deline. Yeah, guys, thanks for everyone that's given us their time. We understand it's highly valuable, and we don't overlook the fact that your time is extremely important. Awesome. I hope that was valuable. If you do have any questions that weren't covered, feel free to engage with your salespeople. If you need a really big brain to come onto site, we can organize Deline or somebody from her team to come through. I see there is a question. Donkeys?
Thank you very much. It's not a question as such, but let me just start off by thanking you guys for sharing this valuable information with us. It is an eye-opener for the most of us, and I believe that we will take this transformation back to our workplaces. I actually wanted to request that you share the presentation so that we can remind ourselves whenever we need this information from time to time. Thank you.
100% we'll do that. And just so you know, we do have a how to care for your footwear poster, which Protector's got a number of them that they put up into your change rooms, into your canteens, so that you then start having a regular interaction with your guys, understanding just your housekeeping for footwear.
Donkeys, I'm not 100% sure we've got your details. If I can ask you to just drop it in the chat, we'll make sure you're part of the email that goes out with all of the webinar series, just so that you can refer to it in the future. Awesome. Great. If that's everything, guys, thank you. Thanks again. Hope it was valuable, and yeah, all the best. Keep your people safe.